So can you go into depth about your experience in politics and why you've entered public service in the first place?
Why I entered public service in the first place? I entered public service in the first place to serve my community. I have never sought higher office. I really value our community, La Cañada, and I grew up here and raised our family here as well with my wife. And I wanted to give back to the community in more ways, and so I entered into the Planning Commission and served on that for 8 years, which was a great experience. And then there was an opportunity for me to run for council, and so I did that 10 years ago, and have been very happy with that and very challenged. But it's a great community, so it's a good opportunity for me to serve at that level.
Since the beginning of your term as mayor in March 2020, the country has faced several crises like COVID-19. In La Cañada, as of February 2nd, there has been 668 reported COVID-19 cases. Given the steady vaccine distribution by the federal government, how has La Cañada been impacted by COVID-19 thus far?
The city's been impacted by COVID-19 in a myriad of ways. Unfortunately, a lot of them have been negative. I think our city, which is one of 88 cities in LA County, have experienced different levels of hardship, and it's been a critical situation for our city in terms of how we move forward and how we get better. And I think as you talk about the 600 plus people, almost 700 that have cases in the city, we're a small city. I mean, we're a city of 21, 22,000. So what I think is happening is that we know people. You know people, I know people that have COVID and have, and unfortunately some people have passed away, which is obviously a crisis. So we're very hopeful for the vaccine. We're very encouraged by that. I think that's been the bright news that came out in December and January. So we continue to work with our federal and state partners to help facilitate how people can get the vaccine. And hopefully in the next 5 or 6 months, things will be better in our community.
On a similar topic, does City Council have any future notable legislation or dramatic change in response to COVID-19?
Well, that's been a challenge for our city. So one of the things we have done is we wanted to assist our businesses as best we can that have been negatively affected. So we created a gift card program, which was, I think we call it the YIFTY gift card program, but it's where people can buy a gift card, which turns into a credit card, and they do it at a discount, and then they can use it at different retail locations throughout the city. So by doing that, we're helping spur the economy and helping people shop locally while also offering them a discount. So that's been a big help. It's actually been a very successful program. It's beating our expectations, and we're continuing to provide some income for that. The other note for our businesses is that we're trying to provide as much information as we can, which would be helpful to them in order to survive this, because some of our businesses are not surviving. And so we're doing the best we can. We're working with our Chamber of Commerce very closely in terms of disseminating information out to get that. There's a lot of state and federal and county grants available for businesses. So we offer seminars online through the Chamber about how to apply for those and get those, and we're encouraging, and I'm sure you've heard of the PPP program for the business. So we've had informational sessions on that, so businesses can understand how to apply and try to be successful in getting those. So those are just a couple examples of some of the things we are doing.
While La Cañada is a small city, it has a strong community that is filled with parents who are concerned about their children's education. What has the La Cañada City Council done so far to address La Cañada parents' concerns about the education system? Specifically, has the City Council addressed concerns about declining mental health due to distance learning?
So the City Council has tried to address the concerns of mental health issues and students in the community by partnering and doing additional resources for our schools and for the senior population and middle age people like myself. It's a big concern, and so we're trying to address that through being supportive of our schools, offering additional resources that we may have, trying to make sure all our schools are aware of the additional public health resources that are available as well. And then we're also working with our legislators to make sure that we can open up the schools as quickly as possible so people can get back into in-person learning in a safe environment.
On the topic of communication, in an August 5th, 2020 city update, one of the administration highlights stated that there was an increased communication between City Hall and the community, citing a greater use of social media and website design. However, in a recent poll conducted by the Outspoken Oppa, the majority of surveyed La Cañada students stated that they were unfamiliar with the city council members or their work. Do you believe that there should be a stronger effort to connect students and La Cañada teenagers in City Hall?
I think that there should be a greater effort to connect with the youth in our community, and it has been a priority of the city council and the city over the years. We have made strides in improving our communication from 5-10 years ago, in terms of just to the general community as well. But one of the key things we have here in town is, or through the city council, is our youth council. And our youth council is made up of individuals from high schools, from all the high schools in the city, and they meet on a regular basis, and we interact with them, and we do rely on them to relay information out to their fellow students and people in their school about what the city's doing as well. But the city can always do better in terms of that. So that's a good question, and it's something that we are striving on. And of course, the communication problem this year has been a communication problem that everybody's been experiencing because there's no face-to-face interaction right now. So that's been difficult. But our technology system is much more advanced than it used to be.
Is it correct to say that the decision to reopen La Cañada schools is up to the California state government?
It's an accurate statement because it is controlled by the state, and the state has that jurisdiction. And then that gets passed down to the county, and then the county sends that information to us. So there's other counties that are further ahead in that, but you are correct that the state has jurisdiction over that authority.
In the past several months, the LCOSD has been in distance learning. What is your opinion on the quality of teaching so far?
Everything I have seen, and I have two children who are teachers and teach actually in schools locally, and I would say that I think that the teachers on the most part, are putting a great effort into their school program. So I think the distance learning effort that goes in by the educators is superb, and it's a challenge though, because I think that it brings on a whole new set of dynamics for you guys at home as you're trying to learn, but also for the teachers as well. So I think that that's an ongoing battle, and so hopefully as the vaccine becomes more prevalent and hopefully numbers go in the right direction, then there's going to be the opportunity to get more back into face-to-face learning.
Given the current education system, do you believe our high schoolers will be affected in college admissions because of distance learning?
I do believe that high schoolers are negatively affected, especially the seniors this year, right? With the high school admission process. It's been difficult. I have a senior, a son who's a senior, and normally we would try to go and take him and visit schools. We haven't been able to do that. So that's a difficult situation, but I think that because of the challenges of not the personal interaction in the school, not the exposure to different opportunities that one might get if you were in-person learning, then that's a challenge. I do think though that the universities and the colleges have made some accommodations to address that, but I think that it's definitely a challenge, and I definitely think, unfortunately, there's a negative effect to that.
Another crisis the country is facing is the loss of millions of jobs due to government lockdown. Would you say La Cañada has been severely impacted by what could possibly be an economic depression?
To expand on the impacts, the negative impacts of the pandemic on the La Cañada economy is kind of a multifaceted situation. One is there's been a reduction in sales tax, so there's been a reduction in sales to our businesses. There's also been a difficulty, and there's people that are losing their jobs or don't have the ability to get jobs, so that's been difficult. We have our biggest employer in our city is JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, so that's been somewhat of a benefit in terms of that they're a government agency and are a necessity, and so that's been helpful in terms of loss of jobs per capita in our city. But it's still, the impact from the region is what's been difficult, and there's been a lot of government efforts to assist people with stimulus checks and things like that, and I think that the latest numbers I saw is that the unemployment rates are leveling off across the country, but La Cañada has been a little protected from that exposure just because we're not a huge work center here in terms of outside of JPL, which is a huge employer, but so that's been somewhat helpful, but it's the whole regional as an economy that we're obviously concerned about.
Changing the topic, since the summer of 2020, a group known as La Cañada Black Lives Matter has protested every Sunday at Town Center. Essentially, they are calling for the termination of the city contract with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. What is your honest opinion about the efficiency of the proposal, and is there a middle ground on this debate of public safety?
In terms of the question about the validity of the proposal that was presented by Black Lives Matter, the La Cañada Black Lives Matter, we have met with them through our Public Safety Commission, and the Sheriff's Department has met with them as well. It's difficult to say that we can or cannot kill a contract with the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department has been our police force here in our city since 1976, since we incorporated, and they've done a very good job of protecting our city and our residents, and that's been an important piece, and they're an important piece of our community. Some of the issues and the items that the BLM group has brought up are worth discussion and talking about, and we continue to do some of that internally. And we look forward to constructive engagement with the group and with others as well. It's not just specific to the BLM group.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, it was nice meeting you, and thank you for this tremendous opportunity to interview you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much.